We actually had a pretty good run there. I was pretty happy about that. So we're gonna just give you guys a second to come over here. Come over here. Love to do impressions. Hopefully this doesn't interfere with the other. I would love for it not to, because I want to read your guys' questions. So I'm going to take a small chance and leave that open for a minute while you guys transfer over. So we are there, and we are over there and live. See and become nimble. All right. Missed the context of Brunswick and oh, hey Jason. So yeah, my context of Brunswick and Waterville is I have two personal sources that know people are in self quarantine for potential contamination from COVID in Brunswick and Waterville. The Waterville cases are public out of Colby College. I can't tell you how I know the Brunswick things. Am I dropping the internet or is the man shutting me down? EDoc writes. Well, my question is the man shutting my internet down? That happens to be a lot up here. And I don't know. We pay for it. We've brought it. We've gotten 2 or 3 new modems. It could be the lines up here. Look, I'm in the sticks. I admit that. Or it could be a problem. We don't know. But welcome to everyone coming back. I'm going to continue. We ain't going to short you out tonight. We're going to go for another 15, 20 minutes, and that's it. People need to move, and we'll put it here because Bob doesn't understand what we need to do here. Everyone who's here, if you haven't moved over yet, move over. Oh, did I do that right? Well, whatever. Hopefully that works. All right. I want to answer your questions, though. We're going to continue with the questions from the other thread. I'm going to just work through them and do short links here so I can read it. So if I look like I'm looking the other way, it's because I'm actually looking at the old thread. I want you to know that. So here. What about those who are saying that this is a way to force vaccines on our population? I would say that if they were going to do it, it's a brilliant way to do it. I'm not prepared to go that far, but, anything's possible. Miaz writes, the strain from Italy needs hospitalization in 50% of cases as opposed to 20% of the cases in Asia. That's why I spent a lot of time at the beginning of the show, which probably didn't interest people as much, but it will end up proving just as important, talking about the comorbidities of what people have. Look, if you have a lot of people who are obsessively overweight and you go ahead and put stress on their lungs, that's like asking fat people to run a marathon. If you force fat people to run a marathon and you say you either have to cross the finish line or die, what happens? A lot of people are going to die. And I'm not saying that to be mean. Look, I have an extra couple pounds myself. I'm just pointing out the reality of bodies. On the other hand, if you have someone who has no fat whatsoever and you ask them to survive situations, they may die too. So you got to find that sweet spot. So M. Derrico writes, wasn't there a Harvard doctor that was indicted for taking money from a Wuhan test school? His name was Charles Lieber, and in fact, 2 Chinese nationals were arrested with him. There's also a really interesting set of people who died up in Canada who were related to the Wuhan Virology Institute. I know there was a professor, he was up in Manitoba, up in Winnipeg, which I can't tell you much about the background of these things, but you could go ahead and say that. So let's see. Everyone needs to be careful. Many rumors. Slamurai Jam Down says, many rumors of coronavirus in Las Vegas. It's in Las Vegas, man. There's no doubt about that. I have no doubt. Donnie says, I can't afford. You got to be careful about this. JT asks, hey, Tom, what are your thoughts on the exponential spread of the virus? And Dana, tell me if I lose the stream over there at any point, okay? On the virus in the U.S. based on the emerging picture from the case data available. I think a whole lot of people have this thing, right? So Tom's Law, okay? Tom's Law is very simple. I reported this on the show, but I think it's the easiest way to do it. Take the number of people that you see and multiply it by who have this and multiply it by 20, and that's the minimum amount of cases. And if you want to do it based on the death rate, this is harder, but people have asked me that. I would say multiply it by at least 50. I think that's safe at this point. As that number goes up, the multiplying factor will go down. But when you have people dying from this, that means they were probably infected on average maybe 8 to 12 days or more if they had a prolonged hospital stay. The average hospital stay of people who died in Wuhan was in the 17 to 19-day range based upon the research. So, in that amount of time with the rate we are seeing, the rate I'm using in my head is that it doubles every 4 days. And you can look at the caseloads from different places. We have a lot of the best data we have on the replication rate, frankly, comes from the Diamond Princess, the love boat that kept on giving. But it was a control sample that gave us some idea of what to expect in terms of replication. Can it be faster? Yes. Can it be slower? Yes, but you got to work at it. And it's in cities now where people are not protecting themselves or not taking it seriously. How many people in New York and Washington are getting themselves sick, in Boston, Chicago, San Francisco, cities that have large mass transit system, public mass transit? I would be terrified. I am terrified, actually. You won't get me south of the Kennebec River at any point. Well, you're not getting me south of Moosehead Lake. But the numbers are big, and the modeling of it, in case for those of you who want to do it yourself and work out your own numbers, here's how I would do it. I would say that what you need to do is take the number of cases, and you want to multiply it times the infectivity rate, which rather than doing the R naught, because it's kind of hard to do that, try to figure out how quickly you think it doubles. Like if you think the R naught of it is about 6, you can kind of work out the number of cases where it would go to. That's kind of what I'm using as my baseline. And that's like 3 to 4 days, but I'm trying to be a little more conservative. The people out there who are in the mainstream media seem to be using a number more around 4, with a doubling maybe every 6 to 7 days. They're coming up with much more conservative progressions, and that's fine. That's not unreasonable, especially given some of the evidence and how it got into the country. But it seems like once it gets into a country through a border, it tends to spread faster based on what we've seen. You want to take that number times the amount of time you think it takes for a case to become manifest on average. And that's been pretty consistent at 8 days. So if you think that it takes 8 days to double, you're going to add 1 generation back. So you would say, okay, well, we are seeing 6 sick people because 36 people are sick, and the other ones we don't know are unhealthy, right? Those asymptomatic carriers, which we now think might be neurological patients. We don't know that, but we have to prepare based upon what the evidence tells us. And there's enough evidence there to be cautious about it. And if it ends up being contradicted, and God knows I hope it is, I'm going to be the first one to report it. And it's not egg on my face to tell you what's true. We're just trying to survive. That's all it is. There's no room for ego. All the egos have to go at the door. If you're someone who's bringing, the brain power, bring it. And if you got something that's useful, bring it. I'm going to use it and I'll run with it. And that's how we've done this. I want to thank my friend Lucky, who's over there in the Orient, who gave me access to this article. The reason it is big is because someone in Asia thought to share this with someone in America who actually took the time to read it, to listen to someone from another part of the world and begin spreading this out there. And what did the system do? Well, they went ahead and said, well, we're not going to look at that. Well, you better start looking at it. What the hell are you looking at? Your own backsides, It's so hard to say it that way. I'm trying so hard not to curse. My wife sitting here actually is making me curse a lot less because she's good about not having me do that. But I'm not so good about not doing that, especially these days, man. I mean, find your preferred. We had this great conversation, and this is the psychology of it.